Once upon a time, the sun was chirping, birds were shining, and Topaz had come out in 1.4. To very mixed reception, might I add. There was a time where follow-ups were kind of nothing. Yet over a long period of time, the team archetype has seen itself become one of the strongest in Honkai Star Rail. So today, I thought it'd be fun to talk about the journey of the follow-up attack meta in Honkai Star Rail, taking a look at where it began and how it got to where it is now. In the process, we'll have a look at why this deck collector is an absolute survivor when it comes to the Honkai Star Rail meta. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. First, we need to journey all the way back to 1.4, back when both Jingliu and Topaz were coming out. Yes, follow-up attacks did exist in the game before Topaz, but this deck collector was where the story truly began. Speaking of debt, what if you want to pull for Topaz, but you want to save some money at the same time? Well, allow me to introduce you to Loot Bar. Loot Bar is a wondrous service which can offer you cheaper stellar Jades compared to the official prices shown in-game. Look at this comparison between the official cost and the Loot Bar cost. New users get a wonderful 5% off, and the prices are up to 20% cheaper compared to the official channel. Loot Bar is a completely safe service, and has countless positive reviews. Yet, how does it actually work? Well, first input your UID. That's right, you need no login information whatsoever. Choose your desired package, and then look at that. More Stellar Jades for me. This is all legit since the site uses a VPN, which is how they cheapen the Stellar Jades, and official top-up methods are used. Check out Loot Bar today to save on all your gacha needs. Topaz was the first limited 5-star character that was completely dedicated to follow-up attacks. For the time, her kit was extremely unique, setting her abilities apart from the others. Though back then, this was sadly to her detriment. Hypercarries were all the rage back in the early patches of Honkai Star Rail. We're talking Zeala, Imbibitor, and of course Jingliu, who came out alongside Topaz. Being a unique follow-up attack enabler meant nothing during an era where every popular DPS unit was a very traditional hypercarry with straightforward mechanics. It didn't help that for the time, Jingliu was completely and utterly broken. She was the unit to pull for back in 1.4. She remained as one of the strongest freaking characters in the entire game until about Acheron rolled around, which gave her a solid amount of time to build up her reputation in the community as a meta behemoth. Topaz, on the other hand, was seen as kind of whatever. Because she had no specific main DPS to support, people looked at her as a damage dealer, which is a role she doesn't really excel in at E0, S0. Don't get me wrong, her damage isn't bad by any means, but in hindsight, I think we'd all agree that Topaz was designed as a sub-DPS. Hyper teams for her were not very strong, and there was no specific situation where you really wanted Topaz specifically. Well, aside from her being a super cool character, but we're talking in meta terms here. Even if you pulled for E1 or S1 Topaz, or even better yet, both, she still wasn't really a powerful main DPS or anything. It simply made her go from feeling whatever to feeling serviceable, which, considering her competition at the time, wasn't too groovy. Things proceeded to not really change for a while. Traditional hypers remained as the rulers of the Honkai Star Rail meta, and Topaz stayed down low as one of the lower tier 5-star characters that you could pull for. The follow-up attack niche was certainly in a rough spot at this stage. However, this was not to last forever. Things took a change for the better once the free 5-star doctor ratio came out. This is for a few reasons. First off, the guy is free. Everybody was able to get their hands on a copy of this dude, making him the most accessible 5-star in the game for quite a long time. There were two things that were really in Topaz's favor here. First off, he dealt in follow-up attacks, the deck collector's specialty. Secondly, dare I say most importantly in my opinion, he was actually good. Topaz gained a superb use case with an actually strong unit. One that sought out the qualities that she brought to the table. Ratio craves debuffs, and Topaz offers a really high value one via her skill. Her constant follow-up attacks when being played by his side only made things better for the both of them, increasing the team's overall DPS. Robin eventually came out, becoming the new best-in-slot dual carry buffer for follow-up attack teams. Her A4, which specifically focuses on this damage type, is nothing to sneeze at. This only furthered the position of this team in the meta. What's even crazier is that Jingliu, the character that everybody praised to the high heavens when she first came out, had somewhat fallen off. Meanwhile, the unit that nobody paid much mind, that being Topaz, went from being one of the most underwhelming limited 5 stars to being an absolute meta queen. Let's not forget about Best Boy Aventurine either. Dude is an insane shielder. You can justify pulling for him simply for that incentive alone, or because he's a cute twink, up to you. In any case, this man is still one of the absolute best defensive options in the game, if not the best defensive option, while also offering follow-ups. While his follow-ups might not do that much damage on their own, pairing him up with Robin results in his contributions actually being pretty nifty. Also, his ult damage isn't too shabby either, not to mention that lovely crit damage taken debuff in his ult, which makes him an excellent partner for the, in his words, huge doctor. Yet, oh boy, the story is far from over, because we haven't even discussed the most recent development in the follow-up attack archetype's journey. The releases of both epic Fei Xiao and awesome Mortar. The Yaoqing General is nothing short of an absolute goddess, both design and meta-wise, honestly. The Doctor was already crazy, but this unit completely blew the follow-up attack niche out of the water. Her power is quite frankly unparalleled at the moment. Gotta love it when Honkai Star Rail comes out with another best DPS in the game. Don't you just love power creep? Anyways, point is, this character is nuts. She truly solidified the ultimate rise of the follow-up attack niche. We at last have a T0 comp of this archetype. Mortz's release only sweetened the deal further, for 2 reasons actually. First off, the dude is just a really good unit. He's a fantastic stack generator for Fei Xiao, and because his prey mark counts as a debuff, he works with Mr. SAS per Kippy as well. His E2 providing a 40% crit damage buff is no joke either, making him a fantastic choice if you want to turn Fei Xiao's burst into an absolute nuke. If you collect more of his Eidolons, then he also becomes quite a neat sub-DPS himself. Yet, even right out of the box at E0, he'll get his job done just fine. Second off, he's a good 4-star. Typically speaking, in the past, those have never been particularly good in Honkai Star Rail. Morta is an actually impressive 4-star character who is genuinely worth considering next to 5-star options. For example, would you rather double down on Fei Xiao's burst, therefore using him for his E2's 40% crit damage buff, or would you rather spread out the team's damage profile using Topaz for her own personal numbers? Hunt 7th being a good free unit is also no joke. Like, she's actually strong, dude. Whereas before, yes, Luca, Arlan, and Sushang, anyone. Gotta love the state of old 4-stars in Star Rail. Fei Xiao also rose the value of other already strong units such as Topaz, Robin, and Aventurine. The Gambler lad's follow-up attacks gained even more value too, because he helps build up Fei Xiao ult stacks very quickly. My man can't stop catching these W's, you love to see it. The archetype got a nuts amount of love in such a short period of time. It really was a zero to hero situation. So what position is this niche in now? Certainly a very good one. The power level of Fei Xiao is so through the roof that she single-handedly placed the archetype on the highest pedestal in the meta. Before, it wasn't really anything worth paying mind to. Now, if you want to clear content in the most efficient way, it's highly likely that you will turn to a follow-up attack team to help out. It's completely worth investing into, as this is only the beginning. Yes, Fei Xiao is indeed broken, yet leave it up to Hoyo to somehow cook up an even more busted DPS in the future that takes advantage of his archetype. We already have an excellent base to start with, and I can't wait to see how his team will continue to progress over the next 2 years. Plus, Ling Sha has plenty of follow-up attacks in her kit, and while she may primarily be a break support, all of her follow-ups make her quite the neat stack generator for Fei Xiao. This also makes her quite the decent Aventurine replacement, or just pull them both because both designs are freaking peak. Considering how this lovely lady is supposed to be centered around break, yet still has follow-up attack potential, I'd say that Hoyoverse is far from being done with his team archetype. Also, holy guacamole, Topaz is an absolute champion for having survived the Dark Ages. Very few people cared for her upon release. I really can't blame anyone for that after all. Compared to Jing Liu, she really did feel kinda trash. Yet, to all those of you who were Topaz fans from the very beginning, I'm sure you all feel as vindicated as ever. Because now she is a member of one of the best teams in the game, the Fart Team. I actually find Topaz to be a seriously interesting character to analyze, because as we all know, Honkai Star Rail is a bit of a kill or be killed world. The game's meta much prefers to introduce new broken 5-star characters that totally wipe old ones out of relevance in order to make certain teams and niches stronger. For instance, being a hypercarry in this game is the equivalent to having a ticking time bomb placed on your lifespan as a unit, because it's arguably the most cutthroat niche to be a part of. Old DPSs are constantly getting power crept. I wouldn't even say the supports are totally safe either. Sparkle is still an excellent unit, don't get me wrong, but she definitely doesn't feel as wildly strong as she did before. Robin is excellent right now, but will that still be the case when Sunday, an absolutely massive release that Honkai Star Rail has been hyping up for patches, comes out? I'm not so sure. This also leads to characters who aren't super broken upon release being somewhat forgettable. When a character is filler in Honkai Star Rail, it's extremely obvious. Sorry to all Yun Li fans, but I'm going to use her as an example. She isn't anything special in terms of damage, and on her release, she didn't compete with the existing top tier DPSs whatsoever. So what is the point in considering her? I don't really have high hopes for Rappa because of this. I don't think she's going to suck, for the record. Hoyoverse would never release a unit who can't clear at E0S0 with base free-to-play investment. Zilla and Blade can still clear content if you invest into those two enough, after all. But in terms of hype, she's definitely not as crazy of a release as Acheron was, or the upcoming Sunday. Meanwhile, there's Topaz. To be fair, she is an IPC Stoneheart, which does make her an important character, but that doesn't change the fact that she wasn't all that relevant upon her initial release. She is a very rare case of a Honkai Star Rail character who came out in a not so excellent state, though eventually rose to become a really decent character. Part of what's important here is her shelf life too. Topaz has always been a supportive sub-DPS, no matter what way you look at it. It doesn't matter if Phase Shout gets power crept in favor of another follow-up attack DPS, and it doesn't matter to her if that happens 100 times over. DPSs may change as the seasons do, yet supports in this game are far more eternal, especially because her synergy in these comps is so good. The fact that her E1S1 makes her the absolute definitive best in slot follow-up attack partner no matter what, making the team incredibly strong, means that she's an amazing option for long-term investment into follow-up attack teams. She will always remain as an essential cog in the machine if you opt to pull for those upgrades, massively extending her shelf life for higher investment players, because it'll take a very broken support to beat Topaz's E1S1 buffs to the follow-up attack niche at E0S0. Follow-up attacks are one of the most unique and fun team archetypes in the game. It's very interesting watching the meta shift in my opinion, and it feels like it happens so fast all the time in the context of Honkai Star Rail. The niche feels stable, you're asked to pull for really strong characters on the whole such as Robin and Aventurine, plus I feel like you can't really go wrong with its high investment routes. E1 Robin, anyone? Definitely give the team a spin. If you're somebody who dropped the archetype way back when due to its previously disappointing results, mark my words, you will for sure be impressed by its current state. Hopefully this video was able to tell you about how Hoyo brought the follow-up attack niche up from 0 to hero. This has been Juice, signing out, and the real reason why the Fart team is so strong is because Fei Xiao is a wind character.